Hello and welcome to What Else is New, Episode 2. I am Kelly Green. We are going to take a quick little walk through some of my open tabs, some videos that I've seen, some stories I've been looking at, some little clips and snippets here and there. I'm trying to keep stuff interesting, not run-of-the-mill. These topics, however, are going to be familiar to you, but I'm trying to take a slightly different angle on them. So, here we go. We have a Doomer friend, I want to say friend, but we've never met, Sandy. She runs Environmental Coffeehouse YouTube channel, 4.35 thousand subscribers. She's going to open up our show just talking about why she didn't cover the Council of Parties 29, the recent climate COP meetings in Azerbaijan. So let's give that a little go.
It just felt hollow. And I did that show on Azerbaijan and I did the expose, which, I get not even 1,000 views, and I put together a really good piece on that country. But Democracy Now!, at least they did something 3 days ago, and they only got 21,000 views on that. And Azerbaijan is a genocidal state. So I don't get why people don't care about what goes on in other countries.
Well, that's a good point. There wasn't very much, if any, discussion about the political situation in Azerbaijan and their history. However, one notable climate activist, Greta Thunberg, very early out of the gates, I think even before COP29 started, she was trying to communicate that to the world, but she's, I guess, persona non grata now. Nobody wants to listen to her anymore. Anyways, on climate, on weather, we're going to move right along to a little clip on the Comedeorological Report from last week. This is episode number 171. Quick little clip from Joe Stover.
A lot of these, we talk about the developed countries that are experiencing consequences from climate change. In Baku, just the summit that just wrapped up. One of the things that I took away from that is that the more developed countries, or the more rich countries, I suppose, were squabbling over how much to give to the developing countries. Like, that seemed to be like a real, instead of saying how much do you need to help us mitigate what's going on, it's just
how little squabble. Can we give?
There's Joey.
How little can we give, and just squabble, and it's I'm always an optimist, but it's just, how does one that still believes that something can be done, how can one be optimistic, at least to a high degree, when you are hearing that these are the kind of things talked about at these climate change conferences.
That's a very good point. How can one be optimistic? It's hard. So first off, Azerbaijan, we don't have any sense of what the political situation is like there. There's very little discussion. The fact that it's an oil-rich country, I think it was the first country to discover and, I guess, refine or drill for oil. And no talk of reducing emissions, which is kind of ridiculous. And the one thing that they were there to talk about, which was to get some money to the developing countries from the developed countries to help pay for climate mitigation and adaptation and transfer to a green energy economy. That even failed. So interesting. And also interesting that Joe Stover, I see he's got a little Churchill jacket on. He talks about in this video being up in Hudson Bay and the ice and stuff like that. So it's really nice. So just quickly, I hope that people get a chance to tune into the Comedeorological Report. It airs every week across Canada. It's on a bunch of TV stations, community TV and community radio. Joey's doing a bang-up job, and he's always got an excellent panel of guests ready to go. At any rate, moving on. What do we got here? Itsgoingdown.org, a fairly radical website. This caught my eye, and I thought I would include it in the roundup for today, even though it's dated, like it's almost a year old, this article. But I thought with the American Thanksgiving having just passed, and Black Friday, aka Buy Nothing Day, and Christmas season coming up, general state of the world and inflation and the economy and everything else, I thought it would be interesting to show you the Feed the People, Eat the Rich group wearing Jeff Bezos masks ransack Whole Foods. So this was pretty fun. I'll just run a quick little clip. All right, well, that was kind of fun. We'll just leave it there. Maybe inspiring, maybe not. Now, speaking of inspiring, I've been inspired the last few weeks with a singer-songwriter I discovered after the passing of Kris a few months ago. His name is John Flynn. I guess he's a friend of Kris Kristofferson. He's performed with them, and he's now co-written a song with them post-mortem, and it is called Kris's Rules. That's what it's called. I've got a clip from John Flynn's most recent live. He goes live every Friday night. I reached out to him on Facebook to see if I could get permission to use a little clip and promote his stuff on my show. He didn't answer back, so I'm just going to do it anyway. Whatever. Here's a little piece from that song, Kris's Rules.
Telling me just what I had to do. Tell the truth. Sing with passion, work with laughter, love with heart. Tell the truth, sing with passion, work with laughter, love with heart. You used to remind us all what William Blake had said. Sorrow and confusion haunt the living and the dead.
Okay, I could play the whole song and listen to it many times over, as I already have. Excellent tune and excellent words to live by. John Flynn, I really like him. His politics are bang on, and he's currently the executive director. I can't remember the name of the organization. See if I can find it on here. It's called New Beginnings, Next Step. This is an organization that John founded and he heads up, and essentially it's offering support for men that are coming out of prison and get them back onto their right path. So good for him, good for that work, and supporting them just for that is worth it, not to mention his fantastic singer-songwriting music. Now, speaking of live with passion and speak with truth and love with heart and all of that stuff, I would like to introduce you, or reintroduce you as it may be, to Naomi Hunter and why am I drawing a blank? Alex Tyrell. Sorry, Alex Tyrell is the leader of the Green Party in Quebec Green Party, and Saskatchewan Green Party leader Naomi Hunter. Now, what they're speaking on this week is the Ontario Green Party's new resolution to do a shift. They're pro-nuclear now. They're not anti-nuclear, which is bizarre. In this podcast, Naomi reminds us that the Green Party has always been anti-nuclear, very staunchly anti-nuclear, started in the peace movement, anti-nuke movements, and let's just give a listen to what she has to say.
What we also need to link in here is the fact that nuclear power plants and their waste are integral in the production of nuclear weapons and other weapons of war that are used around the world.
So that's a very, very good point, despite the fact that there's a lot of other problems with nuclear power, but primarily the main reason for developing that resource was to create the fuel for the nuclear arms industry over the last 80 years. There's no place to put the waste. Well, in fact, some of the waste, depleted uranium, has been used over the last few decades to coat munitions, whether it be bullets or shells or bombs, called depleted uranium, DU, and it's been used in battlefields all over the world, leaving deadly radioactive, toxic materials in the environment that just last forever. It's ridiculous. Okay, I got another little clip lined up.
We must speak up. We must make sure that we're heard. We have to make sure that people clearly understand why our party is rooted in this opposition and rally support to this point of view.
So with the Ontario chapter of the Green Party, the Ontario Provincial Green Party, suddenly becoming pro-nuke, I guess it's not suddenly, there's been people behind the scenes been working on this for quite a long time. Now the challenge is upon main anti-nuke leaders of the Green Party to step up their game and organize to ensure that the Canadian Federal Green Party remains anti-nuclear and that we can get some pushback and further educate people, not only for Ontario, but for Alberta and Saskatchewan, two provinces that are considering getting into the nuclear power game, which is ridiculous. Anyways, the fight is on. Stay tuned. You know me, I'm fiercely anti-nuke, and I will be watching this with extreme interest. So good job to Naomi Hunter. Thank you very much for carrying on the fight with regards to that. An amazing activist, fantastic woman, excellent political leader, just brilliant artist, artisan, homesteader, farmer, mother. She does it all. I don't know Alex that well, but from what I can tell, what I do know of him, he's rock solid. His politics are excellent, and we're very lucky to have both of these people in leadership positions in Canadian provincial politics. Okay, moving on.
One thing that hasn't changed over 50 years, something that is so important to tell you kids who are new to this movement.
Shut the fuck up. You're sitting in the police transport van after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. In a holding cell with your comrades?
Shut the fuck up. Cop knocks on your door?
Shut the fuck up.
Texting on an unsecured device?
Shut the fuck up. Pulled over by the cops after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. Cop just asking about your day?
Shut the fuck up. Feds, call your mom?
Tell your mother to shut the fuck up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up!
That was very good. I should have probably put that in after this little piece over here. Oh, yes. Recently, I think last week, dozens and dozens of activists took to the water to block a ship at the world's largest coal port. So good for them, taking action and risking arrest and bringing awareness to these enormous problems of climate change and the burning of fossil fuels. I would like to just make a quick note that my old friend David Hermelin was one of those in the flotilla. Right on, Dave. Thanks, really appreciate you still getting out there and putting your body on the line and doing what's right. He's also a big Green Party guy. He lives down under, has for a long time. I know David from, almost 25 years ago in Toronto, working together and alongside with the Toronto Video Activist Collective. So my hat's off to Dave for doing that action and all the other activists down in Canberra. Very, very good job. Okay. I found this website that you might also find a little bit interesting. You can look at warming stripes or labeled stripes or bars with scales, whatever. And those are my climate stripes for Edmonton. Okay, Collapse 2050. This is a blog or a website, I guess it's a website, by someone going by the name of Sarah Connor. You might recognize the moniker as the heroine from the Terminator film series. At any rate, Sarah Connor has put together an excellent collection of the best documentaries on climate change, civilizational collapse, nuclear war, peak oil, and more. So if you're bored with the Netflix and you already watched whatever that new Buy Nothing or Buy Something or whatever Buy Now, there's a new hot documentary on Netflix that people are talking about. Okay, screw those guys. Go to this website, collapse2050.com, and find some better films to watch. Maybe some films you haven't seen in a while, or some that you haven't seen at all. There's some good stuff on here. Before I get into my recommendation, this douchebag, that's Michael Rupert. For people who tuned into my podcast that I made a couple months ago, you might remember a story where this guy threatened to take me out. I don't like this guy. Anyways, he's dead, so whatever, screw him. No Tomorrow, Blind Spot, Enjoy the World, Baraka. No picture here, but that is an excellent movie. Documentary film, no narrative or voiceover, just visuals and music. Gorgeous, beautiful. Look it up, find it, watch it. Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot, classic. David Attenborough, Life on Our Planet, classic. Corporation, a classic. Canadian classic. Hypernormalization, I'm watching this one currently. I fell asleep, started it, watching it now. Looks good. That looks good. Blue Gold World Water Wars. This might get into... This is probably good. I should watch this. So this might feature Maud Barlow, another Canadian activist, always working on the water issues. Ooh, another activist on the ocean that we should think about this holiday season is Paul Watson, one of the original Greenpeace members and founder of Sea Shepherd Society, now founder of Captain Paul Watson Foundation. He's in jail. He was pinched in Greenland. He's wanted in Japan for something the Japanese whalers didn't like that he did. He probably got in the way of their business. So good for him, and good for you for caring about him and the work that he does. Getting back to climate change really quickly, and American climate change, politics, big oil, that kind of thing. This is an interesting little video that talks about big oil's early cover-ups. So it wasn't... Many of us know by now that from the 60s and 70s, Shell and Exxon and the big oil companies, they knew they had their own internal studies about climate change and global warming as a result of the emissions from their products. What this journalist has now discovered is that those PR campaigns go back even a couple more decades, that originated in Los Angeles during the smog crisis of the 1950s.
The strategy that they adopted to protect themselves from, regulation of local air pollution actually told them about a much greater danger that their activities were causing, and that was global climate change. And how that happened was, really, you could see this as like a test run. They weren't maybe particularly adept at running this kind of front group. It was the first time that they'd really done it, because it was the first time they'd really been put under the spotlight in this way. So they recruit somebody from the East Coast who looks like a safe pair of hands to head up this research group. He was recruited with the help of a couple of oil industry affiliated members of the Air Pollution Foundation. So, it all looked like he'd be a good person to run it in line with their vision.
Anyways, this is a really interesting story. I encourage you to check it out. Check out Status Coup News. I think this guy, Jordan, he's doing some really great work. He did excellent coverage and ongoing coverage on the East Palestine train derailment and chemical poisoning that happened, I think, last year. There was a giant chemical plant that blew up in Georgia right after Hurricane Helene, and he's done some excellent coverage on that. It seems like he's kind of the only one out there that I've been able to find in independent American media that's really digging deep into some of the pollution, some of the climate issues. So good for him, good for Status Coup News. Okay, we're getting down to the end of my little thing here for the day. We're going to end off on some grim news. Some healthcare workers in Canada grappling with patients requesting euthanasia. So as predicted, and as it's growing, a homeless man refusing long-term care, a woman with severe obesity, an injured worker given meager government assistance, and grieving new widows, all requested to be killed under Canada's euthanasia system, one of the world's most permissive laws on the practice. And Canada looks to expand its euthanasia. Now, it sounds good. The medical assistance in dying, MAiD, you're suffering, maybe you got a terminal illness, and you can have some relief from that in a humane, controlled setting. Unfortunately, things are getting to the point where euthanasia and the medical assistance in dying is being used more and more to deal with poverty. Poor people. So here's a post by John Clark. Again, he was a guest on the Comedeorological Report this week. I encourage people to check that out. He's talking about climate and class. That's the title of it. So this post, UK will fund my death before they fund my wheelchair. Yeah. Yikes. And then I shared that post and I was musing, wondering how long until euthanasia and medical assistance in dying is incentivized even further. Well, I don't know. At any rate, I want to thank you all for tuning in, taking this tiny little trip through my open tabs and some of the things I've been looking at this week. I'm calling this show What Else Is New? And yeah, if you've got anything that's interesting, an interesting take on stuff, something that maybe wasn't covered that well, look me up, send me a link, and I might include it in the show. Meanwhile, see you later, I guess. Bye.